Hey, it's Joe Glines, and in this video we're going to quickly review how to customize your own status bars in SciTE. First off, and here's my, from here to here are my settings for, I have right now 6 status bars. You only display one at a time, and what you do is you click on it and it'll toggle rotate through them. The first setting here is just to make sure you actually have your status bar visible. Actually, let me see if I save this as 0. No, I think if I restarted SciTE, it would update that, but we want to have them visible. Oh, hey, have them visible. And then here, I don't know why, but you have to tell it how many status bars you have. And in this example, this is actually the normal one I use, and I've just commented out because I've grouped together on the other ones examples of variables that you can pipe in there. And so what you do is you say how many there are. Here there are 6, right? And so what it does is it starts in the first one. So here, this directory. And let's see, where am I? Oh, looks like I was not on the first one. Let me get back to the first one, which is going to be buffer length characters. Okay, so there are apparently, what is that, 28,896 characters and 554 lines in this file. And that I'm getting that from here. So there's this. So what you do is you put the $sign and then a left paren and then the variable name and then the right paren. And then you can just add just text on its own. But the trick is to a number of lines. Looked like there was a space there, but so number of lines. That is a key variable, right? It's pre-configured by SciTE. And so I have a link in this video of a lot of the common used ones, as well as some examples of other ones that you might play with. But in this first one, so again, this is the selection. It's on selected 9 characters in one line. So that's because, let's say I started here. Let's do status bar. Right, so there's 9 characters in one line. If I went across more than that, notice it updates how many characters and how many lines. Right, so I can go across multiple lines. There are 18 characters and 7 lines. Right, depending on what you're doing, this might be helpful. I typically have the what is that other stupid one? The insert, and then there's the overwrite. And let's see, if I actually disabled it in a hotkey, but I know there's a separate way to get there. So if I change this, yeah, so this will overwrite. Now I could type in here, right, and it's gonna overwrite what is there. And that, see this selection OVR, it's either selection OVR or INS, and so I'm going to go back and get back into the insert, right, and now when I type a letter, it adds it, not overwrites it. And that's what was coming in from selection overtype. And end of line, this tells me that I have the new line break and line feed, or control line break and line feed for this file. When I click it, it'll go to the second, and now it'll go to this one, right? It's going to change to this one. So when I click the status bar, now I can have like the directory, right? That's where here up to that first pipe, or the path, the entire path to that file, including the file name, or I can have the name and extension, right? Which is, let's see, that's right, SciTE user.properties. That's the name of this file. Or just the name, which is SciTE user, or just the extension properties, right? And all of that you can see up in this example here, as well as the last modified date, which can be handy of understanding the last time you actually had edited it. And so I have the time and the date. In file attributes, like in this file, I set it up to be a read-only and hidden. So R and H is shown, but in most files it's going to be blank. So if I go back to here, because they're not read-only and hidden, they're blank. Alright, let's go to the next one. On this one, so here is this has a lot you can display the current date. So right now it's 7:24, yep, at 1:03. This is the current time. My home variable, which I created in another video, you can check that out if you want, but it's the path to where I have my home variable starting from. And default home, I don't think, for me, there's not a difference between these two. There might be for you. Again, I don't use these. I was just putting them in as examples of what you might need depending on what you're doing, especially if you were personalizing your user properties file, right? It's an easy way to go check of understanding what SciTE has for it. So let's go to the next one. I'll click it again. Here, this max file size, I have it, I think this is 20 megs. if I try to open a file over 20 megs, it'll first ask me, are you sure you want to open that file? Because that's a big freaking file, buddy. Otherwise, it doesn't ask me that. So that's what that max file size is, just to remind me of that. The encoding, this code page, that tells me that this is set to 65001, which is UTF-8. Somewhere there's a lookup thing that you can tell with the code page what those mean. The default extension is, so AutoHotkey is the default extension, because I'm using SciTE for AutoHotkey. And the tab size, which is, I have it set to 6, so it'll insert, when I hit tab, it's basically going to insert 6 spaces when you go export it. And let's see, the next one, as an example, I was just saying, hey, what do I have under this file patterns for .py? What other file patterns do I have associated to that? So there's py and pw, so anything with those. And then the next one is the local, so basically understanding what language you're running it in. Maybe if you do a lot of international stuff, this could be helpful. This buffers, you can look it up on the thing, but it has to do, I think, with how much memory you have associated to it. And again, it's just an example of like, hey, I even have what color is the selected foreground, right? And that is going to display it here. On the very last one, this one's a little, so I had recently searched for /r/n, and now let me show you here. If I come up here and hit find, control find, and you know what? Actually, let me change that to control H, and I'm going to find bar, and I'm going to replace. Oops, I don't want to do that. I'm going to replace bar with bar, right? Which makes no sense because they're the same thing. But when I hit replace all, you'll notice right here. See, this replacement is 26. Well, down here, it also, that's what I have it telling me here is, hey, the last time you did this, or when you ran this, it was 26. And also, I searched for bar. However, when you close this window, that goes away. I wish it stayed. To me, it makes more sense if it actually stayed. But the find what you found last could be helpful, I suppose. Let me undo that just in case. But let's see. And I think that was the last one, right? Yes, and basically you follow this notation. So it's a $, left paren. Let's get rid of this. So you put your variable in there, and that's where if you go to a page I'll link to on this post, you can see the built-in stuff. Let me see here if I can jump to it to find. So on this page, and you scroll down a little bit, well, let's see. File path. Here we go. So these are the built-in variables that they have, right? But also, when you read here, these defined variables. So a lot of these here on the left, this is what you can also put in, which is there's an amazing amount of stuff. So just depending on what you're doing and what you're using, being able to customize that and put that in the status bar could be extremely helpful. That's it. Thanks.